And we'd like to welcome some of the members of Plattsburgh Cares, Kathy Sager, Diana Wardell, and Jenna McVetridge. We appreciate you all joining us here today.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
Your group organized back in 2017 to help the thousands of migrants, asylum seekers who started passing through Plattsburgh and heading to the border using Roxham Road to cross into Canada. During those 6 years, Janet, you and other volunteers would greet the asylum seekers at the border at the end of Roxham Road, giving them warm coats and warm gloves and hats and teddy bears. Some of those asylum seekers would get turned back and returned to the United States. And Diana and Kathy, you and other volunteers would help them with emergency food and shelter, and in many cases, help buy them bus tickets or pay for a cab to drive them to New York City or beyond. But when that loophole that allowed them to use Roxham Road was closed a year ago, things really began to change for Plattsburgh Cares. At first, you saw a number of asylum seekers getting turned back from Roxham Road, coming into Plattsburgh, coming to the bus station, and many of you were there to try to assist them again with bus tickets. Did you see such numbers, though, that it really forced you folks to reevaluate? Did you have to change your mission?
Yeah, so midnight on March 25th, when any of entries into Canada that we call irregular crossings, individuals would no longer be able to ask for protection and would instead get turned around and returned to U.S. authorities, unless they met an exception to the safe third country, which is very narrow. And many of these individuals that made their way up to the border may not have understood the impact that this expansion of the safe third country would have.
And keep in mind, at that point, early on, people had been traveling for years or months. They didn't even know about the closing. Yes. They got up to Plattsburgh and found out when they got there to the bus station.
So you were seeing an increase in the number of migrants who were coming to Champlain, who were coming back to Plattsburgh, and in need of assistance. And you were trying. In those early weeks, you were doing what you could for them.
Yes.
Oh, most definitely.
Yep, and they were stranded. They've spent their last dollar to get to Roxham Road, only to be turned back, and they had nothing left, and often were in, desperate situations.
And no plan B.
Mm-hmm. And many of them not speaking English.
Correct.
Or very little English, and so in many cases you were trying to assist in that way too. And you did help a number of them. You were buying bus tickets and sending them to New York City, and in some cases beyond. But for a small humanitarian group, I imagine your funds
We spent
ran out.
through our funds, yes.
We spent through not just our funds, but our emotional and physical stamina to meet the demand, because it was basically 24/7. And Diana was the leader of managing all of this in a way that was just heroic, but also not sustainable. None of us could sustain this level of drain emotionally, financially, and physically. So we had to make changes.
And then over the past several months, you've now seen migrants who are ending up here after crossing the border from Canada. Migrants now finding their way into Champlain and Plattsburgh, but coming from the other direction from Canada here.
Well, we know the numbers are up in terms of the southbound folks, and Border Patrol are working very, very hard with all law enforcement to try to keep people safe. A lot of people are really invisible. They're detained and they're processed and they're released. So unless we see them on a street in Champlain or at the bus station in Plattsburgh, we don't even know how many people there are.
And we would only probably interact with those folks that had no resources, because if they do, they're able to catch a plane, train back to, hopefully relatives or friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been able to step in and help them?
Well, I can hand out the warm clothing, which I still have some in my car. But I would say our goal really has to move them to some place that has a shelter. And we have nothing long-term here.
And that's part of the issue. There's no place for them to go. If they're ending up in Plattsburgh, does the county step in? Social services in the county step in to help them,
So
assist them?
it depends. The individuals that may not have any funds for overnight shelter, the county, if they call after hours, will put anyone up overnight or till the next business day, and then they're instructed to report to social services in the next day to see if they're eligible for services. And many times the county is able to provide a bus ticket for the individual or the family. There are times with social service regulations that they're not able to assist someone, and that's when they would contact or reach out to Plattsburgh Cares, and then we would help with now a much more limited bus ticket to New York City, where we know that there is shelter, not forever, but at least for the 30 or 60 days. So that's more than most agencies or organizations or churches could do here in our region.
So as you told the volunteers that you spoke to a couple of weeks ago, your mission has changed a bit. It's sort of narrowed now, where you are gathering emergency food bags that have food and toiletries if they spend the night, and to try to assist them in that way.
Really, it's for anyone that is placed in emergency housing by social services. There is emergency food there. So that is for citizens or non-citizens. It's for anyone that is in need. You know, the JCO has a food pantry, the Interfaith Council has a food shelf, and there are other community meals, but it's the occasions where, it's the middle of the night, it's a weekend.
And so they need food. They need toiletries too.
Yes.
They need the essentials.
Yes.
And that's how you can help out.
And we are able to do that with the good work of many volunteers. We put the word out, and we were very excited when we would get 6 or 8, 10 volunteers, because many hands make light work. And the last time we did it, we had over 25 volunteers, and we filled 100 bags in less.
Well, it was 25 minutes or something like that.
Incredible. And that's how volunteers are stepping up and helping.
So we appreciate that, and all the folks that support Plattsburgh Cares, that's much appreciated.
We want to mention that we have some very generous grantors who have supported this effort to feed those who are in need in emergency situations, and to continue to provide occasional housing and travel money for those who aren't staying in the area for any length of time. So we are grateful to those who have supported us. But it costs about $20 to fill one food bag, and we have 100 bags that we fill every 3 weeks. So that's a lot of money.
And when you spoke to the volunteers, you also talked about how you're teaming up with networks of immigration lawyers, also immigration rights groups, who are helping the migrants in other ways.
We're very fortunate. New York State Office of New Americans has several consulting immigration attorneys that cover the North Country area, and we do have we work very closely with an immigrant resource coordinator who sets people up with legal consultations. Mm-hmm. We're also work closely with what's called the Cross-Border Network. Very excited that on the Canadian side, they're setting up a cross-border legal clinic, because many people need information about if they're interested in claiming refugee status, asking for protection in Canada. They need to understand, the process, and probably get some advice, not from a U.S. attorney, but from a Canadian attorney. Mm-hmm.
And so with these coalitions, you can help migrants still looking to get into Canada. You can help migrants coming from Canada into the U.S.
Yes.
We've always tried to be a source of referrals. Our job is not to help people become Canadian citizens or help people become U.S. citizens. That's not the work that we do. We are here to bear witness to this humanitarian crisis and to provide the basic needs to help keep people safe. That's our main goal.
The mission may have changed some. The goal of the humanitarian group is still the same.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Keeping people safe reduce the suffering they experience.
Kathy Sager, Diana Wardell, and Janet McFetridge, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom.
We appreciate it. Plattsburgh Cares is looking for volunteers to help pack the emergency food bags. They're also looking for interpreters and drivers. You can visit their website and Facebook page to learn more, and you can also find information on how to assist the group. Plattsburgh Cares held a volunteer drive recently, reaching out to members of the community in hopes of bringing in new volunteers and supporters. Janet McFetridge talked about helping asylum seekers over the past several years, and Diana Wardell talked about the new mission for Plattsburgh Cares, along with the new cross-border coalition that will be able to help connect migrants with attorneys and experts who specialize in immigration issues. You can find links to watch both those videos on our website and YouTube channel.